There's a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how hard you work today. It's the exhaustion of giving and giving and giving to someone your time, your energy, your loyalty, your money, your patience, and slowly realizing somewhere in the pit of your stomach that it was never really appreciated. It was expected, and the moment you stop giving, the moment you finally say no, you find out exactly how much that relationship was ever really about you at all. This is one of the quietest forms of pain a person can carry because it doesn't announce itself. Nobody walks up to you and says, "I'm using you." It happens slowly, through 1,000 small moments where your needs get pushed aside, your time gets treated as free, and your kindness gets treated as an unlimited resource instead of the gift it actually is. By the time most people recognize what's happening, they've already given away years. The Stoics understood this pattern better than almost any philosophy that came after them. Seneca once warned that some people come into our lives not as friends, but as thieves in friendly disguise, taking what they can and giving nothing of real value in return. Epictetus taught that the clearest sign of wisdom is knowing exactly what belongs to you and what doesn't. And that includes your time, your energy, and your self-respect. Being used isn't just an emotional wound. To the Stoics, it was a failure of discernment, a failure to see clearly what was actually happening in front of you. Today, we're going to walk through 7 unmistakable signs that someone in your life is using you, not loving you, not respecting you, but quietly extracting from you, and exactly how Stoic wisdom teaches you to recognize it, protect yourself, and walk away with your dignity fully intact. If you've ever felt that specific, hollow exhaustion after giving everything to someone who gave you nothing back, this video is for you. Stick around until the end, because the 7th sign is the one almost nobody sees coming. And it might be the most important one of all. And if this resonates with you, hit subscribe, because we're building a space here for people who are done being taken for granted. Sign 1. They only reach out when they need something. Pay close attention to the pattern of when your phone actually rings. Does this person check in on you during ordinary weeks? Ask how you're doing. Remember the small details of your life? Or does contact only ever arrive wrapped around a request, a favor, a ride, money, a listening ear for their crisis, help moving, help fixing something, help solving a problem that's entirely theirs? Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should pay attention not to what people say, but to what they consistently do, because actions reveal character far more honestly than words ever will. A person who values you will show up in the ordinary moments, not just the moments they need something extracted from you. If you find yourself mentally bracing every time this person's name appears on your screen, already guessing what they're going to ask for, Some part of you already knows the truth before your mind is ready to admit it. This pattern is especially painful because it disguises itself as friendship. There are real conversations, real laughs, real moments that feel genuine. But notice the initiation. Who reaches out first and why? If the warmth only ever arrives at the exact moment they need something from you and disappears the second the need is met, that's not a relationship. That's a transaction wearing the costume of a relationship. And you deserve to know the difference. Think about the last 5 times this person contacted you. Write them down if you have to. Was it to ask how your week went? Or was it to ask if you could cover their shift, lend them money, help them move a couch, or listen to a crisis that somehow always seems to be happening in their life? Now think about the last 5 times you reached out to them. Did they respond with the same warmth and availability you offered them? Or did your messages sit there, answered eventually, half-heartedly, once it was convenient for them? The pattern rarely lies, even when the person creating it insists it doesn't exist. Sign 2. Your boundaries are treated as suggestions. Here's something the Stoics understood 2,000 years before modern psychology gave it a name. The way someone reacts when you say no tells you almost everything you need to know about how they actually see you. A person who respects you will hear, "I can't this time," and simply accept it, even if they're a little disappointed. A person who is using you will push back. They'll guilt you. They'll bring up everything they've supposedly done for you, conveniently timed the moment you finally try to protect your own time or energy. They'll go quiet and cold, punishing you for the audacity of having limits. Epictetus taught that the things within our control, our choices, our time, our energy, are ours alone to give, and nobody has the right to demand them from us. When someone treats your boundaries as an inconvenience to be negotiated rather than a limit to be respected, they are showing you very clearly that they see your time and energy as something they're entitled to, not something you generously choose to offer. Watch closely the next time you tell this person no. Do they accept it with grace, or do they immediately try to make you feel guilty for having a limit at all? That reaction is data. Use it. Sign 3. The relationship feels unbalanced, and you're the only one who notices. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being in a relationship, a friendship, a partnership, a family bond, where you are constantly doing the emotional labor, the planning, the remembering, the checking in, the forgiving, and the other person seems to float through it all without ever noticing the imbalance, because why would they? It's working perfectly fine for them. Seneca wrote extensively about the danger of relationships built on convenience rather than genuine virtue and mutual respect. He warned that such relationships will always favor whoever benefits more from the arrangement, and that person will rarely be motivated to notice or fix the imbalance, because doing so would cost them something. Ask yourself honestly, If you stopped initiating contact, stopped remembering their birthday, stopped being the one who always shows up, would this relationship survive? Would they notice the absence? Or would they simply move on to whoever fills that gap next? This isn't a comfortable question, but it is an honest one, and honesty is the entire foundation the Stoics believed a good life must be built on. Think about a friendship where you're always the one organizing the get-together, always the one remembering the important dates, always the one checking in after a hard week. Meanwhile, the other person shows up when it's easy and disappears when it isn't. For a long time, it can feel unfair to even name this out loud because on the surface, nothing dramatic ever happens. Nobody yells. Nobody betrays a secret. It's simply a slow, quiet drain. Invisible to everyone except the person carrying the weight of it. That invisibility is exactly what makes it so easy to endure for years without ever addressing it directly. Sign 4. They never ask how you're actually doing. There, as a difference between someone asking, "How are you?" as a greeting, and someone asking because they genuinely want to know. You can feel the difference in your body before your mind even catches up. One feels like being seen, and the other feels like being processed. People who are using you have typically mastered the art of appearing interested just long enough to get to what they actually want to talk about, which is almost always something related to themselves. Conversations become a one-way street. You listen to their problems, their stress, their drama, their needs. And somehow, your own life rarely comes up. Or when it does, it's quickly redirected back to them. Epictetus taught that a person's true character is revealed not in grand gestures, but in the small, consistent details of daily interaction. Someone who genuinely cares about you will ask follow-up questions. They'll remember what you told them last week. They'll notice when something seems off in your voice. If you consistently walk away from conversations with this person feeling unseen, unheard, and slightly hollowed out, even though nothing overtly bad happened, trust that feeling. It's telling you something true. Sign 5. You feel guilty for even considering walking away. This is one of the clearest emotional signatures of being used, and it's also one of the most painful, because it turns your own conscience into a weapon against you. If the thought of setting a boundary, saying no, or stepping back from this relationship fills you with intense guilt, guilt that feels disproportionate to what you're actually asking for, it's worth examining where that guilt came from. Manipulative dynamics are often built, sometimes unintentionally, sometimes very deliberately, on a foundation of obligation. You're reminded directly or indirectly of everything you supposedly owe this person. Their disappointment becomes your responsibility to manage. Their needs become more urgent than your own exhaustion. Over time, this creates a person who feels guilty simply for having limits, which is exactly the emotional environment where being used thrives undisturbed. The Stoics drew a sharp, essential line between genuine obligation, the kind that comes from real virtue, real reciprocity, real love, and manufactured guilt, which exist purely to control behavior. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he was responsible for his own actions and his own virtue, not for managing the emotional reactions of everyone around him. You are not responsible for someone else's disappointment when you finally choose to protect your own peace. That guilt you feel isn't proof that you're doing something wrong. Very often, it's proof that someone has spent a long time training you to feel that way. Picture the moment you finally tell someone you can't help them this time. After years of always saying yes, the sinking feeling in your stomach as you send that message isn't guilt about hurting them. It's the residue of years spent being conditioned to believe your worth was tied to your usefulness. That feeling is real, but it isn't truth. It's a habit, and like every habit, it can be unlearned with enough honest, deliberate practice. Sign 6. Their praise always comes with a request. Attached. Compliments should feel like a gift, but notice how it feels when this particular person praises you. Does it feel warm and genuine? Or does it feel like the beginning of a sales pitch? You're so good at this. You'd be perfect for, you're always so generous. Could you just this once? Nobody handles things like you do, which is why I need you to. This pattern is one of the oldest manipulation tactics in existence, precisely because it works so well. Flattery lowers your guard right before a request lands. The Stoics were deeply suspicious of flattery for exactly this reason. Epictetus warned his students to be wary of anyone whose praise seemed to arrive with strings attached, because genuine virtue doesn't need to soften you up before asking something of you. This doesn't mean every compliment is secretly manipulative. Real appreciation exists, and it's beautiful when it's genuine. But pay attention to the pattern over time. If praise from this person almost always precedes a favor, a request, or an obligation, you're not being complimented. You're being prepared. Sign 7. You feel smaller after spending time with them, not bigger. This is the sign almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most important one on this entire list, because it doesn't rely on catching someone in an obvious act. It relies on trusting your own body's honest reaction. Relationships built on genuine care tend to leave you feeling a little more like yourself, energized, valued, seen. Relationships built on extraction tend to leave you feeling depleted, smaller, slightly diminished, even when you can't point to any single moment that explains why. You walk away from time spent with this person, and instead of feeling connected, you feel tired in a way that has nothing to do with physical exhaustion. The Stoics placed enormous value on self-knowledge, on paying close attention to your own internal state as reliable information about the world around you. Marcus Aurelius wrote his private reflections precisely because he understood that checking in honestly with yourself is one of the most powerful tools a person has for seeing reality clearly, without the distortion of wishful thinking or social pressure. Trust that feeling of smallness. It's not weakness, and it's not you being too sensitive. It's your own wisdom, quietly trying to tell you something your mind hasn't fully accepted yet. What Stoicism teaches you to do about it recognizing these signs is only the first step. The harder, more important step is deciding what you're going to do with what you now see clearly. The Stoics never taught cruelty or coldness as the answer to being used. They taught something far more powerful: clear-eyed detachment paired with unwavering self-respect. This means you don't have to confront every person who has used you with anger. You don't need a dramatic scene or a perfect closing argument to prove you were right. What you need is simply the willingness to stop offering what is no longer being valued. Start by protecting your time the way you would protect something genuinely precious, because it is. When this person reaches out with another request, pause before automatically saying yes. Ask yourself honestly, am I doing this because I want to, or because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't? That single question, asked consistently, will change the entire shape of your relationships over time. Practice saying no without over-explaining yourself. You don't owe anyone an essay justifying your limits. "I can't this time" is a complete sentence. Notice how uncomfortable that might feel at first, especially if you've spent years being the person who always says yes. And let yourself sit with that discomfort anyway, because on the other side of it is a version of your life where your energy finally belongs to you again. And perhaps most importantly, extend yourself the same compassion the Stoics taught toward others. This isn't about becoming bitter or assuming the worst about everyone in your life. Most people are not using you, but the ones who are deserved to be seen clearly, not excused endlessly out of guilt, fear, or the exhausting hope that they'll eventually change if you just give a little more. The freedom on the other side. Here is what nobody tells you about walking away from someone who was using you. It doesn't feel like victory at first. It often feels like grief, even relief mixed with sadness, because some part of you mourns the relationship you wished this could have been, even as you release the one that actually existed. But give it time. What comes after that grief is something the Stoics understood better than almost anyone. A quiet, steady peace that comes from finally living in alignment with your own worth. Epictetus taught that freedom isn't the absence of difficulty. It's the refusal to let anything outside your control dictate your inner peace. Choosing to stop giving yourself away to people who never valued the gift is one of the purest expressions of that freedom you will ever practice. You are not selfish for wanting reciprocity. You are not cold for having limits. You are not difficult for expecting to be treated the way you treat others. You are simply, finally, someone who sees clearly. And there is nothing more stoic than that. And here's the part worth remembering on the hardest days after you've made this choice. The space you free up by walking away from someone who is using you doesn't stay empty for long. It fills slowly and naturally with people who show up simply because they want to, not because they need something from you. Relationships built on real reciprocity feel different almost immediately. Lighter, easier, less like a performance, and more like an exhale. You'll know the difference the first time you experience it, because your body will recognize what genuine care actually feels like, maybe for the first time in years. If any of these 7 signs hit close to home today, know that recognizing them is already the hardest part behind you. The rest is simply the slow, steady practice of choosing yourself one honest boundary at a time. If this video helped you see something more clearly, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Stay grounded, stay clear-eyed, and remember, your energy was never meant to be free for the taking.